What's up everyone, this is DR with WoW Breakdown 101, and today we're going to be doing a workshop on a Restoration Shaman from the community. This Resto Shaman also does heroics on his Paladin tank to give you a general idea of his skill level this player is at. If you have a Restoration Shaman, then this video will be worth watching, as some of the things we will point out to help this Shaman may help you out as well. The first thing that we're going to take a look at is his user interface. This user interface actually has a good foundation. And let's see if you can tell some of the things about this user interface that it actually may cause an issue. Okay, the big issue with his user interface is that he has deadly boss mod timers overlapping information on his user interface in the middle of the screen. This is causing him to have an issue using his decursive add-on, as the timers is covering part of the decursive bar, causing him to have to click the top part of very red small boxes as you see now. And the bars are also covering up some of his Tell Me When add-on cooldowns. All of this information does need to be near the middle of the screen so that it is close to his character and he can react fast to the information that it is telling him. I would suggest putting the decursive add-on above his raid frame as to keep his mouse pointer closer to the raid frames when dispelling his targets. The Tell Me When add-on is fine in its location, and I would however move the Deadly Boss mod timers up just a bit so that they did not overlap the Tell Me When cooldowns. Now, what else do you notice about the user interface that will help improve his performance? If you said battle text, you would be correct. Look at how cluttered the screen looks with all the text flying everywhere. And if there was someone right now at a position standing in the void zones created by misery, you would not be able to tell it due to all the clutter. Turning this battle text off will clean up his user interface and make it a lot easier to see what's going on in the fight. Now there will be a lot of you that say, well, that doesn't bother me and I don't pay attention to all the numbers on the screen. And if that is the case, then again I ask, why have it on if you don't pay attention to it? Battle text on heals and damage numbers is useless information that you just do not need. Now I'm going to show you something else that I noticed him doing. Just watch and you'll see him start to make small, little movements for no reason. There's nothing he's moving out of. He's just moving back and forth a couple steps, healing. And I notice a lot of people doing this. They get bored, there's nothing going on, so they start moving back and forth for no reason at all. And this is a very bad habit to get into if you're wanting to get into heroics, and it's going to hurt your healing and DPS numbers. Not to mention, due to this habit, it has actually caused this to transfer over to his tanks, as I'm going to show you now in this fight. When you're in a raid encounter, only move when you have no other choice. If you're bored and there's nothing to do, doing little shutter movements like we are seeing his shaman was doing can actually lead to the habit of them doing this on a tune that you never want to move like that, as in his tank. This can cause you to die as a tank, can kill others, along with driving your melee DPS nuts when you're doing shutter movements like this. So if you find yourself jumping, moving around when there's little going on in the encounter, then try instead stand still and put more effort into your heals, damage, tanking, and start looking at your timers to see what is coming down the line in the encounter. When there's little going on, that is Blizzard's way of telling you, hey, something is coming up, start preparing for it now. Doing this will help you keep ahead of the encounter instead of behind the encounter. This is how you stay proactive instead of reactive. Tell Me When is a great add-on, but you really need to take care of how you set it up, and this actually leads up to a huge error on a Restoration Shaman's part. During the encounter, he throws down his Healing Tide Totem, which is a very powerful healing raid cooldown. Now watch closely at what happens here. He replaces his Healing Tide Totem with a much weaker Healing Stream Totem and loses 4 seconds on his huge raid healing cooldown. The reason this happens is because he has no timer in a spot that tells him easily how much time is left on his Healing Tide Totem. And his Tell Me When is telling him that his Healing Stream Totem is off cooldown and ready to use. The best way to avoid this is to set up his Tell Me When with a condition on his Healing Stream Totem when it is off cooldown and Healing Tide Totem is not in use. That way his Tell Me When will not show his Healing Stream Totem ready to use while his Healing Tide Totem is still down. Now it did not cause a major issue here. However, if it had been a heavy damage fight, this would have been devastating loss of heals and could have led to the raid being in danger of dying. Now let's go over some of the things in his healing that can use a little bit of improvement. He does a decent job in keeping up his Riptide on one of the tanks, but neglects the other tank with Riptide. The other tank did not need it in this encounter, as his life stayed fairly full, but this is a habit that you want to be in as a Restoration Shaman, and that is to keep Riptide up 100% of the time on both tanks, and another raid member or two if you can. Healing Rain in this fight should stay on the ranged and heals group at all times, as there's usually more heals in range than melee DPS and tanks. One thing I will point out is to make sure that when you're using Healing Rain as a Restoration Shaman, you want to be in the Healing Rain the second it drops. Here you see that he missed about 3 seconds of not being in Healing Rain. Now the other thing I will point out that did happen here is that during one of the heavy AoE damage phases, even though the life of the raid was steady, you will notice that he was spamming Lightning Bolt to regain mana. This comes from what I said earlier about moving when you are bored. If he would have looked down the road of the fight when he was bored with nothing much to heal, then that transition could have went something like this. He could have been spamming Lightning Bolt to regain mana right before the AoE damage phase from Sun, then drop his Healing Rain, AoE heals, totems, and some Riptides, then spam some chain heals while his totems were doing the work. Had this been a heroic encounter, there would have been a lot more damage going out in this phase, and there would have been no way he could have spammed Lightning Bolt through this phase and keep the raid topped off. There is always room for improvement no matter who you are, and recording yourself playing then looking back on it, or sending it in to someone else to look at it for you to help you out, will improve your gameplay a lot. That is all I have for this workshop, so if it helped you out, then give me a like, share, and subscribe to keep up with future guides and content. If you want me to take a look at your gameplay to do a private or a public workshop, then email me at thewowbreakdown@gmail.com, and I can walk you through what you need to do to get me the footage. Have fun, and see you again next time, guys.